Dracula, Mavis, and the regular crew of monsters are back in Hotel Transylvania 3, and ScreenRant is back to go over some Hotel Transylvania fan theories, predictions, and interpretations that are so crazy they just might be true. Join us as we track our favorite Fang Gang and see where they might go from here. And whether you're avoiding the sunlight or howling at the moon, stay tuned to the end to learn about the weirdest theories of all. And while you're here, hit the subscribe button, click the bell, and join our notification squad to stay up to date on the latest and greatest from ScreenRant.
Oh, we never go out there. Ever.
Dracula's protective nature. In the days, weeks, and months following the release of the first Hotel Transylvania, fans noticed some character details that could have used more explaining. One Redditor astutely brought up the question of why is Dracula so protective of his daughter Mavis and against Johnny in that original film? Sure, Johnny's a human, and humanity has oppressed, rioted, and brought torches and pitchforks to many a monster's castle throughout history. However, Dracula's living in modern times, where humanity has grown a bit more accepting. Either monsters aren't their biggest fears at the moment, or they flat out don't believe them anymore. Plus, Griffin, the Invisible Man, is just that, a man. If Dracula wasn't getting updates from the monsters visiting him from around the world about the state of humanity, then he'd have learned that not all humans hate monsters from his friend Griffin. It's more likely that Dracula wanted to protect his daughter from Johnny because he knew that the relationship wouldn't work out, since at the time, Johnny was a 21-year-old human and Dracula's daughter Mavis is a 118-year-old blood-sucking demon. But hey, in the end, it works out. Mavis gets to celebrate her birthday, the hotel's business keeps booming, and the two young and young at heart lovebirds get together and stay together.
There's a whole legend around that lady.
A legend?
The Lady Lubov.
Mavis's mother. In scouring the web for more fan theories, we found this doozy from SnowCloud8 posted on DeviantArt.com. This user believes that Dracula's wife Martha, whom he mourns and whose death he blames squarely on humans, was once a human herself. It goes without saying that Martha was turned into a vampire by Dracula himself, which would make sense based on what we know about how vampires procreate and make more vampires. Yet, in order for angry villagers to riot against Dracula and his bride, you would imagine they would know who they're rioting against, and it would make sense that Martha was once one of them. When you look back on the villagers, however, they're just holding your garden variety pitchforks and torches, as if angry villagers didn't have any improvised weapons to work with. They don't appear to have any stakes on hand to drive through the vampire's hearts. So how exactly did Martha die? Well, in the sequence, the house glows orange, and it's assumed to be burned down. So SnowCloud8 argues that once the house was on fire, one of the ceiling rafters must have come down and pierced her in the chest. It's a rough image for a kid's movie, but it's dramatic enough to understand Dracula's grudge against humans in the first place.
Down there's the real Dracula!
Prove it!
The Genndy Tartakovsky connection. Hotel Transylvania director Genndy Tartakovsky is responsible for the visual look of the franchise, and he's a real visionary talent. Just looking at his earlier work with Dexter's Laboratory, the Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack, and the animated Star Wars Clone Wars series, he has a signature style that mixes a level of darkness and sharp angles to create straightforward and stark worlds populated by colorful characters. There's also a deep connection between all of his projects beyond the fact that he's worked on them. Sure, there are billboards advertising products from each show in the related series, but there are deeper character connections too. We all know the fatherly Professor Utonium created the Powerpuff Girls, but in their original appearance in the animated short Whoop-Ass Stew, Utonium looked more like Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory. When you look at the iteration of Professor Utonium from the Powerpuff Girls series, he actually looks spot on like Samurai Jack. The theory goes that Samurai Jack traveled through time, killed the Dexter-esque professor, and took his place, mentoring 3 crime-fighting girls. Beyond that connection, his build and Widow's Peak is thought to be similar to Dracula. If Samurai Jack is able to travel through time, support the Powerpuff Girls, and travel through time to fight the evil shapeshifter known as Aku, why wouldn't he want to be an ageless vampire to live long enough to face Aku in full strength? Samurai Jack could be Dracula, or somehow related to him.
Dad, I'm allowed to do things. I'm not 83 anymore. I'm allowed to like people or go see the world again.
Mavis's age. For a girl coming of age and coming into her own, she's a late bloomer. About a century too late, to be precise. But thanks to some details brought up by the Hotel Transylvania wiki, we've started to question whether the team behind Hotel Transylvania can even keep Mavis's birthday straight. The celebration at the end of the first movie has to be for Mavis and Johnny's wedding. It can't be for her birthday since Mavis is still 118 at the start of Hotel Transylvania 2. Yet here here's where things start getting tricky. When Mavis is pregnant in that movie, we see a montage of flipping calendar pages to indicate the passage of time until Mavis gives birth. Based on the dates provided, we only really see a sequence of months with 30 or 31 days in them, and then we see only 13 days have passed in the final month. If we are to go by the amount of months they show us, then Mavis is only pregnant for about 7 months. Going by HT canon, Mavis and Johnny's son Dennis is born on June 13th, 2014, which means that Mavis should be 119 in Hotel Transylvania 2, and that she would be 124 or 125 by the time Dennis's 5th birthday rolls around. So either Dracula, Mavis, and Johnny are bad at keeping time, or Mavis has something to hide.
Hey, you don't need a mannequin. Leave the mannequin here. Come on.
From villagers to zombies. In another theory from SnowCloud 8, the user brings up a very interesting point about the zombies who work at Hotel Transylvania. They are fully dedicated to Dracula's service, and we have every reason to believe that they owe him some kind of debt, whether it be because Dracula saved their unlives, or gave them a shelter in the hotel in some sort of work-study arrangement, or they are in fact the villagers who killed his wife. Think about it. After Mavis goes to explore the outside world, Dracula enacts an elaborate plan to have his zombie bellhops disguise themselves as humans. They scare Mavis into returning home with their convincing actions, but did you notice the clothes they wear look remarkably similar to those of the villagers who rioted against Dracula and Martha in the flashback? It goes without saying that the zombies are likely the same villagers from the flashback. Look, zombies are normally mindless drones, driven only by their hunger for brains. They can only be competent at hospitality jobs if they were being controlled by some kind of binding spell or pact, one that could come when a powerful being like Dracula killed them in revenge for the death of his wife. From there, they would be forced to follow him in any venture he chooses to take, whether that be to make more vampires or open a hotel.
Let's just move this along.
The Invisible Man's clothes. The Invisible Man may not be a main character, but he provides a lot of fun avenues for comic relief. One of his many physical gags, one that sticks out, is the moment when Wayne the Werewolf yanks down the Invisible Man's bathing suit. The guy isn't wearing anything underneath. Now, a lot of people will often just wear swim trunks without underwear if there's a lining inside, but the good folks at TVTropes.com argue that Griffin the Invisible Man often goes commando, and he just might be a streaker to boot. Going back to the Invisible Man's source material by H.G. Wells, the title character doesn't have the ability to make his clothes invisible, just his body. So does he enjoy the feeling of a breeze more than polite society would allow? We'll leave that up to your imagination. But something else to consider is that the original Invisible Man existed about 100 years before the events of Transylvania. So either this guy's immortal, or his acquired powers can be transferred into his offspring genetically. Something he does need to wear, though, is his pair of glasses. Scientifically, his invisible abilities mean that beams of light can pass through him, but if they shot straight through his eyes, he'd completely lose his ability to see. So his glasses must have the magical power to protect his vision while showing his expressions.
Oh, he's a late fanger. Just like you.
Yes.
Vampire biology. This one's a bit more obvious if you're thinking about it, but Dracula, Vlad, Mavis, and the other vampires all seem to age. They're not stuck in their particular stage of life like Kirsten Dunst's character from Interview with a Vampire. And the creative team at Hotel Transylvania don't need to answer any awkward questions as a result. Still, Dracula grows older, Mavis comes of age, her half-vampire offspring Dennis grows from baby to child. So it can only be assumed that vampires in this universe are not immortal, they just have incredibly long lives and age from infant to elder over several centuries. So it seems like the stories of vampires living forever are another stereotype about those pale bloodsuckers spread by prejudiced human villagers. Look, monsters faced a lot of persecution in the olden times, but if the general public has a common misconception that you always look attractive, then that's one misconstrued belief that we probably all want people to think about us. However, another misheld belief comes from Dracula himself. In regards to his deceased wife Martha, Dracula has said that you only zing once, meaning you can only have that special true love feeling for someone a single time in your life. But the count ends up falling for Abraham Van Helsing's great-granddaughter in Hotel Transylvania 3, proving that even for vampires, anything is possible.
So creepy and cool.
Martha's coffin. In one last theory from SnowCloud 8, this idea deepens our understanding of Dracula's love for his wife and softens his cold, dead, and bloodthirsty exterior. When Dracula and his wife were attacked by the villagers and Martha unfortunately perished, we assume Dracula killed the rioting humans in retaliation. But what happened to his wife? We can assume she was buried in some family plot, hidden away in the foothills of Transylvania. But what if she's been resting right under our eyes all along? In the first Hotel Transylvania, Dracula Dracula shows Johnny an image of himself and his deceased wife when reminiscing about Martha. Within that same scene is a dusty coffin that on first viewing we assume belonged to the Count, yet it's covered in dust and appears unmoved for a man who would need to use a coffin each day and appears to be very cleanly where his hotel is concerned. Since the picture of husband and wife is in that room, it can be assumed that this entire room dedicated to Martha is where she herself also lies. It's nice to know even a bloodlusty Count like Dracula still carries his own torch for the same woman after all these years, and it further deepens our understanding of his love for Mavis, and why he works so hard to protect her throughout the century and a quarter of her young vampiric life.
Since I'm a vampire, can we stay here?
Yes.
The future of Dennis. The young character of Dennis offers a lot of new directions for the franchise to explore. Sure, both of Mavis's parents, Dracula and Martha, were once human, but by the time they gave birth to Mavis, they were both vampires. Dennis is a vampire-human hybrid, and as a result, he loves and appreciates the heritage of both sides of his family. It's likely that he'd be the one to bridge any additional gaps that pop up between the world of the humans and the world of the monsters. With a strong, curious streak and a brave sense of purpose, he'd be an active character who would rush into danger and work to solve problems with an intuition inherited from his vampiric grandfather. Plus, there's a lot of opportunity in the relationship he shares with Winnie, the daughter of Wayne and Wanda Werewolf. This could set up a comedic Romeo and Juliet type of relationship as the once friendly families become rivals over a budding teenage relationship. It remains to be shown how Tartakovsky and company will shake things up in the next installment. Will he embrace his human heritage more? Or will he go all vampire, use his powers and his monstrous sidekick Tinkles for good, and take over the family hospitality business? We'll have to wait and see.
You're stressed out from working too hard. You need a vacation from running everyone else's vacation. And I know just how to fix it.
Hotel Transylvania 4, according to the stars. This one comes directly from the Hotel Transylvania stars themselves. Following the recent release and success of Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation, the actors spoke to MoviePhone, revealing some of their hopes for a possible follow-up. Selena Gomez, who voices Mavis, simply wants to be surprised, and she fully expects to be based on the twists and turns of the previous installments. Andy Samberg thinks Johnny will go through a midlife crisis, because what's left after marriage and parenthood? Per Andy, Johnny will buy a Lambo and question himself. Meanwhile, Kathryn Hahn plays Erica, the captain of the Monsters cruise ship who is revealed to be the great-granddaughter of Abraham Van Helsing, Dracula's ultimate enemy and monster hater of epic proportions. Since Dracula and Eric fall in love against all odds, it's no doubt Kathryn Hahn would be back for the sequel as well. She went on to predict that Dracula and Erica would go on to have babies together, likely through in vitro fertilization, unless Erica becomes some kind of vampire herself. But hey, with a nearly unlimited pool of monsters to choose from, and a cast with crazy voice talents that seem to increase with each movie, Genndy Tartakovsky and the team will likely come up with more fantastic and insane ideas for the sequel, so stay tuned.
He's still not flying.
He will.
And that's all for our video. Do you believe any of these theories are bound to happen or have happened behind the events we saw on screen? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, there's more crazy theories and unforgettable details where this came from on ScreenRant. See you next time.